Good morning, everyone. Good Wednesday morning, and welcome to June. Welcome to Meteorological Summer. It's 21 News Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm here, and the first day of the month and of the season could be rather active, especially later today. We're going to talk about the severe weather threat today in this video, and things are trending a little bit slower with the onset of our thunderstorm activity, so that could have some implications on not only the timing and how it may impact your day today, but also the potential severity of any thunderstorms. Now, things are quiet this morning. They're going to stay that way for several hours. We are firmly in this warm, humid air mass and a fair amount of sunshine out there this morning as well. It is steamy. Temperatures last night did not drop much below the upper 60s. And when you take a look at dew points, I mean, it is really muggy with dew points up into the 60s early this morning. So we have a very midsummer-like air mass in place out there. And the thunderstorms that do try to erupt as a cold front approaches later today, and by the way, you can see pretty easily where that front is, right out here across parts of the Midwest. That's where the dew point drop is. As that front pushes into this warm and humid air mass today, it'll be able to feed on this instability, and some thunderstorms could mean some business across parts of the region today. First of all, the risk for flash flooding across the region is elevated today because these will be efficient rain-producing storms that we have, especially late in the afternoon and into the evening hours. So everywhere where you see green here, that's a slight risk of flash flooding today. As far as the true severe weather risk, it really hasn't changed much across our region since yesterday. We're still looking at what we call a slight risk of severe weather, and that's, if you think of our severe weather risk scale as a 1 to 5 scale, this is basically a level 2 on that 1 to 5 scale, everywhere in yellow, including our entire television viewing area and all of the northern tier of PA and into a good chunk of New York State as well. So that's kind of the general outline of the risk categories, if you will, later on today. Let's take a look at some of the kind of factors that go into our storms today and the potential timing as well. First things first, I wanted to look at what we call CAPE, C-A-P-E, or convectively available potential energy. Basically, how much juice is there for these storms to feed on? It's a function of how warm it is, how much moisture is in the air, and CAPE values this morning, as they typically are in the early morning, are kind of at a minimum. But as the temperature rises out of the 60s and 70s and into the middle and upper 80s today, these CAPE values will rise. So right here is early to mid-afternoon. And where you see some of these green and yellow colors, these are CAPE values that are pretty high for our region. Generally, when we talk about CAPE values of over 2,000, that's pretty darn unstable. And when you get up to 3,000, that means the atmosphere really is set to go. It's primed. It's loaded for bear, if you will. For thunderstorm activity. So that's kind of where we find ourselves mid to late afternoon today. Lots and lots of instability because it's going to be clear and that sunshine is going to heat up this humid air mass for several hours. And so that's why things get so unstable. I mentioned we're under kind of a low-end risk for flash flooding across the area. Even though storms will be moving at a pretty good clip, we may get a few storms in the same location here and there this evening or late this afternoon. And therefore, the flooding risk is elevated. The atmosphere will be able to produce some tropical downpours today. The precipitable water values, something we look at this time of the year to kind of ascertain how much moisture is in the air column from the ground on up. Across our region, some of these deeper greens coinciding with amounts of 1.5 inches or so. Now, that doesn't mean your location is going to get 1.5 inches of rain today, but that's how much, if you think of the atmosphere overhead as like a sponge that's full of water, if you squeezed it out completely, that's how much water would fall out of that sponge. And it's just, you don't take these numbers verbatim, but it gives you a sense as to how much moisture is available for these storms to wring out. So yeah, the atmosphere is going to be, warm, humid, unstable, and full of moisture today. Now, one thing that has changed since yesterday is the overall timing of the onset of these storms, and actually even the location of kind of the initialization of the storm. So I'm going to fast forward our model here all the way to early afternoon. So this is 2 p.m. Thunderstorm activity may have already started in parts of southeast Michigan, northwest Ohio, but by 2 p.m., it's still pretty quiet, probably locally. So the onset which yesterday we were thinking would be more like 2 or 3, is looking later in the day across our area now as this front is slowed down a little bit. And so our window for thunderstorm activity and potential severe weather probably doesn't open now until later in the afternoon, maybe 4 o'clock or so, with some isolated activity, maybe getting a little enhancement from outflow boundaries, little cool pockets of air flowing out from pre-existing thunderstorms could help to initialize new storms. And also, of course, our cold front is getting set to push in. So this is 5 o'clock this evening. Scattering of thunderstorms around, but I think the highest probability of storms and overall precipitation will be early this evening now instead of mid to late afternoon. So this is 7 p.m. This is probably when things are busiest across the WFMJ viewing area. Any of these storms could have some torrential downpours. They could have some strong winds, and there's even an outside chance of hail. With the later arrival time of these storms, I'm not as concerned about large hail as I was a couple of days ago. This is primarily just a wind threat. Now, I don't want to say just a wind threat, because wind can be serious, and you'll hear me say a lot of times when we're talking about severe weather that wind is wind, and if you get a 65-mile-per-hour wind gust from a thunderstorm, just because it wasn't a tornado doesn't mean it's not a big deal. That's equivalent to a low-end tornado if it's 65 miles per hour. So be prepared for this. Secure loose outdoor items. Got a trampoline in your backyard, good idea to somehow secure that so it doesn't go flying if you get a strong wind gust. Empty trash cans, anything loose outdoors, good idea to secure it before we get into the very late afternoon and into the evening today. The storm should wind down then fairly quickly as we go towards sunset and beyond. Overnight, a couple of showers around, and showers will try to linger into the day on Thursday. So what I want you to take away from this video, kind of a later onset of our storms seems pretty likely. We still have a risk for severe weather. The risk for damaging winds probably higher than it looks like it was 24 hours ago. The risk for large hail diminishing or lowering compared to 24 to 48 hours ago. And, whatever time these push in, we're going to keep you covered with streaming coverage on Facebook, on YouTube. We'll link to it on Twitter, WFMJ.com/weather. Make sure you have the Storm Tracker 21 app as well. We'll keep you covered later on today. In the meantime, another hot one today. Big time cool down coming on Thursday. So if you're not a fan of the heat, just hang in there. In 24 hours, it's going to feel a lot different. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.